Hi there, I'm Donal.
And I'm Frank Nieuwenhuis, and we are both co-creators of the documentary In a State of Change.
Yes. And in this series, we're going to be bringing you through our creative process for the film, and can't wait to share with you all about that. Have you seen the glacier?
It disappeared.
It's all gone now, yeah.
It's gone.
Og ef maður þurfti að komast á milli, þá gekk maður kannski yfir jökulinn.
This is where the graphs all go, straight up.
Yes, it's beautiful, but so what?
Every effort matters. Repeated.
The fact that it is temporary makes it beautiful.
It sure makes it special.
Going back to the start, what was the original inspiration for the film? And Donal, you came to me with an idea. Like, where did that come from, and how did this start for you?
Yeah, so I've been living in Iceland since about 2016, and as a photographer, I've been documenting the glaciers and sharing images of what I've been seeing changing in the landscape through social media, through Instagram, and basically online. And over the years, I've been able to get across this message, but I feel as though I haven't been able to really connect with people as much. And for a while, I've been frustrated with that. And then a little bit more than a year ago, I read this book on time and water by a local author and poet here in Iceland, Andri Snær Magnusson. This book covers the topic of why people don't understand this issue of climate change, of the landscape changing. And this really connected with me because it resonated with, I'm sharing these photographs and people don't seem to be really understanding what's happening. And that brought me to, meet with Frank here and present him with this concept of, hey, how can we work together to cinematically create a story, a documentary around this in this place that we both live, because you also live here. So how can we bring this together through film? Yeah. And that got us to this original concept that we presented to Adorama.
Yeah, and that was that original concept started with you going out and doing repeat photography, where you make a photo that somebody has made like 50 years ago, and that we can actually see the difference between then and now and what the changes are. But we also wanted to tie in personal stories and emotions into the film, or connect it more to the audience through a personal story. So we were going to look for a personal story of somebody or multiple people that were going to be affected by the glaciers, that people would be able to relate to.
Yeah, we were looking for that, but we realized we couldn't find it. I mean, at first we were interviewing people, we were speaking to people on the street, people in the local government here, working with scientists and trying to understand how are people actually going to be affected in Iceland. And when we couldn't find that, it sort of changed our direction a little bit.
We were looking for something that was going to be more dramatic in a way, that people would be a little bit shocked. Whether it was like new information that we would get from scientists, or whether it would be, a local farmer that would have to move their farm or give up their whole life because, their farm would disappear.
It didn't appear as though people were going to be affected physically. That changed our approach a little bit. We had to look for something new to get people to connect to this story of the landscape changing in Iceland, to understand the larger issue of climate change. Because that was the goal. The goal was to try to get people to understand the larger issue of climate change.
The idea was to maybe make people more fall in love with the glaciers through what we would show, and still create a connection with the glaciers, but more that people would, they would realize what they would lose if the glaciers would disappear, and then tie that to people who already have a certain love for the glaciers, like people that work at the glaciers, or an older lady who's lived her whole life by the glacier. Even though we found a lot of people around the glaciers who were deeply caring about the glaciers, we still wanted to have a certain development in this film, in this story. And that sort of made us realize to turn around the camera and film your development through the film, going through the struggles of making this film, of trying to tell this story. Not maybe of making this film, but like the struggle of finding the approach and finding the language to get this message across, which you weren't maybe too excited at the beginning to be, the main character of the film. But it definitely helped us to navigate through the different things and connect everything, because it was also very interesting to see that development of yours through the film, and that people could maybe relate with that development.
I hope that people will relate to the struggles that I went through, this concept of, trying to get people to care about a place that they love. And this film, first and foremost, was inspired by my love of glaciers and my connection to the landscape in Iceland. I think through all these different people that we spoke to, I changed just as the same as the landscape is changing. And I think that is the story that we then ended up being able to tell, and that other people, other creators, other individuals who are, trying to share stories of how their place is being affected by climate change, or their landscape is changing, that they can then be connected to that.
Yeah.